The doors of your car will close automatically. Please keep your head and arms inside and remain seated at all times. And please, no smoking. Thank you.
Matterhorn Matt presents Matterhorn Mondays.
Hey there, Mountaineers. Welcome to episode 11 of Matterhorn Mondays. I'm Matterhorn Matt, and this week my guest is Alex, a historian. Say hi, Alex.
Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here.
And he has his own YouTube channel, so for those of you guys, for the new viewers who don't know who you are, why don't you go ahead and explain your channel?
Yes, well, my channel has 3 different shows. One is a lecture series, really fun lecture series about the different rides and restaurants and things in Disneyland. And I go through the series talking about each ride and its history all the way up until today. I have a second show where I talk about my thoughts on projects and things happening at Disneyland. And then finally, my third show is a vlog series where I go into the park and talk about items or places of historical interest.
Yeah, guys, he's got a really great channel, and I say this every week. You guys should definitely go out and give him a subscribe because he makes really great videos. And let's see, this episode may or may not be short. I'm just gonna put that out there. Let's see, the topics are a rumor I saw in Mice Chat about ESPN taking over some different space in downtown Disney, PIXAR Pier, and we're gonna talk a little bit about Discovery Bay. So let's get started with the first one. On Mice Chat a couple days ago, I saw a rumor that ESPN was going to take over, let's see, the Build-A-Bear and the Ride Makers space in downtown Disney. And I'm going to go ahead and quote this. According to recent scuttlebutt around downtown Disney, a scaled-down version of ESPN Zone will take over the second floor of the building currently housing Build-A-Bear and Ride Makers. So, I just wanted to talk about our thoughts on that. So, Alex, why don't you go ahead and say how you feel about that?
Well, I think it's a good idea overall. I mean, Build-A-Bear was okay at first, but I mean, it's really been losing its popularity, and you know, it kind of had like almost like you'd say like a cult following when it first started out, but now it's just kind of dwindling. So it needs something in that space. And then, of course, Ride Makers is going out of there. So I think ESPN Zone, being that Disney owns ESPN Zone, they would want to keep it. So I think that actually it's a good idea to put it in that space. And the question is, what will be retained from ESPN Zone? Will there still be an arcade, or will it just be the restaurant, or will it be both? You know, that's the thing that's going through my head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't really see them keeping the whole arcade aspect of it. I mean, when I went there a couple months ago, the arcade was empty except for my sister and I don't really know anyone who wants to go to Disneyland to play those cheapo arcade games, you know. I know that ESPN Zone is still really popular because I know people like to go watch, say if there's the World Series, I know a lot of people like to go to the ESPN Zone to watch that, or the Super Bowl, or the NBA Finals, all of that stuff. ESPN Zone gets packed during those events, and I mean, it's really sad to me about Build-A-Bear. I used to love Build-A-Bear. I used to play on the website. I forget what it's called. I actually found my login information for like 5 years ago to it's called like Build-A-Bearville or something like that. I don't know. I was really obsessed with that website, and I was super sad when it closed down. And that's just all I have to say about Build-A-Bear.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but I think it's a good idea. There's something interesting about downtown Disney, which I don't know if people have noticed this, but it seems that they're having difficulty figuring out who should stay in downtown Disney and like what they're going to have there. I mean, it seems like they've gone through so many different tenants and they can't figure out what's the best combination, what's the best thing to have in downtown Disney. So I think that ESPN Zone being there might help downtown Disney feel like there's something to see and do there, as opposed to a bunch of empty shops like a lot of times it usually is.
Yeah, and I know they closed the House of Blues a while back, and I mean, I always wanted to see a concert there, to be honest, but I never got the chance. And they're replacing it with, I think it's called Splitsville or something like that. And it's like a bowling alley or something, I don't even know. And having a bowling alley in downtown Disney makes me feel like they're kind of gearing or like aiming towards the local crowd, but then again, I don't know any locals who would pay to park at downtown Disney just to go bowling there, you know?
Yeah, I have my doubts about Splitsville. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just don't see the appeal or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, bowling's okay every once in a while, but I wouldn't want to go bowling on like a once-in-a-lifetime vacation to the Disneyland resort, you know?
Exactly. I agree. I mean, who would, you know?
Yeah, I mean... I'll go ahead.
I was going to say, but I mean, I just... It boggles my mind, like downtown Disney, like, why would you want to spend your time there when you're going, you know, to the Disneyland resort? And I mean, and a lot of people would argue, oh, well, it's meant for locals or whatever. But let's be honest, locals. No one really goes to downtown Disney, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, the only times we really go to downtown Disney is, like, let me see, it's like on our first day when we get there. We don't want to waste like a half day in the park with our park hoppers or whatever, and we just go there to just, you know, kill time until the next day when we can actually get to the parks. And that's the only time we step foot in downtown Disney. Unless we want to go eat at the ESPN Zone, but can't do that anymore, or at least not in a while.
Yeah, well, I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll be a seamless closure. Like, they'll move ESPN Zone to the new building, and then they'll only close the old one just in time for the new one to open.
Yeah, and like you said, ESPN is owned by Disney. I don't know why they wouldn't move it somewhere else. I mean, I think the food's good. I know a lot of people out there who say the food is subpar, but for my kind of tastes, the burgers, the wings, the fries, the ketchup, it's good.
Yeah.
And oh boy, let's get on to the second topic, which is PIXAR Pier. And we kind of jumped the gun a little early in our last episode, calling how Disney didn't announce PIXAR Pier, so that means that it's just canceled. But that's not the case. PIXAR Pier will be taking over Paradise Pier in the summer of 2018. And I have so many things to say about this, but why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Well, first of all, I'm outraged. I'm one of the people that just I don't really support the idea of PIXAR Pier. I don't think it's necessary, and I don't think it really adds anything to the Paradise Pier area. If anything, I feel like it takes away from the Paradise Pier area. I mean, here they went through all this trouble to redo Paradise Pier, to make it Victorian-like, to make it, you know, old and, you know, turn of the 20th century. And then they're going and putting in all this Pixar stuff, and it doesn't really make any sense. It's just a curmudgeon-y of Pixar stuff. You know, and then, of course, they're going to have a spinner attraction, which is probably going to be similar to the one in Bugs Land. It looks like it. I wouldn't be surprised if they took the one from Bugs Land out and then moved it over there to PIXAR Pier.
Yeah.
Honestly, because it's the same thing. So, I mean, So I guess what the question is, why do I not like the idea of Pixar Pier? Well, I mean, it's unnecessary, and I feel like they just, in their heads, in Disney's bunch of heads, they were just like, oh, how can we just, instead of building a bunch of Pixar rides across the resort, why don't we just build a place where like everything Pixar is just in one spot, and it's just, it may seem like they're attempting to organize the parks, but in actuality, it's just another spot to get more money out of you, because they know that you like Pixar. They know that you like the different Pixar movies, and that you'll spend money on merchandise and stuff if they put it all in one area and called it a Pixar name. So it's just, I mean, turning the California Screamin' into the Incredibles coaster, it makes no sense, because, I mean, how are you going to theme it and make it into a storyline?
Yeah.
You can't. It's a freaking roller coaster.
Yeah,
you can't,
and California Adventure was built specifically to be modeled after the old school wooden roller coasters, and adding the Incredibles on top of that just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, makes no sense whatsoever, especially since the Incredibles exist in a more modern age, and the roller coaster is designed to look like it's, from the early 1915s or something like that, like, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. And then, on top of that, it's just the only bit of storyline you'll get is at the very beginning when you launch from their house. It's just, I just feel like there's no way you can make a story out of that, because there's no show elements except for the beginning loading area. I mean, and it's just, it's the same thing I feel about like Six Flags parks, where they go like, oh, this is like a Batman roller coaster.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm like, really? Just because you painted the whole roller coaster black doesn't mean that it's Batman. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And it just seems like a cheapening of what was already a good roller coaster.
Yeah, and I mean, you can theme roller coasters decently, like Space Mountain, the Matterhorn, all that stuff. And I'd say that California Screamin' was themed decently. Like I said, it was supposed to be like a sort of throwback to the old wooden roller coasters that they used to have in amusement parks. And I mean, it looked good, and I'm just going to say, at least they're not replacing Mickey Mouse's head with John Lasseter's head. That's all I have to say.
Again, I have to wonder, was that really what they were going to do? But no, here's the thing that ticks me off about that Ferris wheel.
Okay, yeah.
So first of all, if anybody has read, Walt Disney: An American Original by Bob Thomas, it was written, I think, in the 70s, and it's a very well organized and well-written biography on Walt Disney. I mean, Bob Thomas got like everyone to put in something about Walt Disney in there, like everybody that Walt Disney knew. So it's really good and very thorough. And in there was a quote by Walt Disney that said that he would never ever want to see a Ferris wheel in Disneyland, nor would he, especially if it has Mickey's face on it. And that was just something that Walt Disney didn't like. You can say that, okay, California Adventure isn't Disneyland, so, technically they didn't put a Ferris wheel in Disneyland, but it is a Disney park meant to represent, Walt Disney's company and Walt Disney's ideals. And so, I mean, the fact that they even built a Ferris wheel just ticks me off. But then what made me even angrier was when they put Mickey's face on it. And I'm like, Walt Disney specifically said he did not want a Ferris wheel, especially one with Mickey's face on it, because he felt that it was cheap and tacky, and it was just a way to get people hyped up over an image of Mickey Mouse, and so now that I hear that they're doing this Pixar Pier thing, here I thought, well, at least they'll replace the image of Mickey Mouse with, let's say, I think it's like Luxo Jr.
Yeah, the
or
ball thing, or yeah.
yeah, or the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, well then that's good. It'll finally take away Mickey's face, and at least it will just be that much more acceptable if Walt Disney were to suddenly come back alive,
Mm-hmm.
But then I find out that, oh, well, people love the face on the Ferris wheel so much that Disney is going to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't describe how livid I was. Oh, I guess livid is a good way to describe it.
No, yeah, I felt the exact same way. And the thing that Alex neglected to mention, I'm assuming because he wanted to save each and every one of you from hearing this, is the fact that they were theming the different gondolas to different Pixar characters. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and quote from the Disney Parks blog. Mickey's Fun Wheel will have a new look with each of the 24 gondolas featuring different Pixar characters and the iconic face of Mickey Mouse remaining on the Paradise Bay side of the wheel. So, what? I don't have words to explain how just dumb that is. It's Mickey's face with Pixar characters as the gondolas. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking.
Honestly, I had forgotten that part. So now that I think about that, Pixar characters with Mickey's face on it, it just doesn't make sense. People, you need to pay attention to these details. Mm-hmm. When you see Disney making a Pixar ride out of the Fun Wheel, but keeping Mickey's face on it, that should be a major red flag to you that Disney doesn't care what goes in their parks. It's all about money. Mm-hmm. It's all about how to market off of it. This is a clear sign of some kind of folly that they're making, mm-hmm. It couldn't be even more clear, because it's a very, how do I say this without using profanity? It's a very half done way of doing this. Mm-hmm. Like they're just like, okay, well, we're gonna keep the face because we like it, but we have to put Pixar characters on each gondola.
Uh-huh. And yeah, it just baffles me of how just stupid that is. It's just plain stupid is what it is. And I'm sure a couple of you out there are going to be defending this addition to the Mickey's Fun Wheel. I don't even know if it'll still be called Mickey's Fun Wheel, but you guys are entitled to your own opinion, but both of us are very against this whole just overall idea of Pixar Pier. And, well, I'm going to go ahead and explain exactly what is going to be replaced and all that. So, of course, how Alex mentioned, California Adventure is going to be rethemed to, I think it's called the Incredicoaster. And that is an interesting name, to say the least. And let's see, the whole, I guess, land is going to be separated into neighborhoods, as they're calling them. And the Incredibles coaster will be, quote, the Incredibles neighborhood. And Toy Story Midway Mania, I believe I read that they were getting rid of the Midway name, or the Midway part of the name, and it's just going to be Toy Story Mania. And so that area is going to be the Toy Story neighborhood. And then, like you said, the Inside Out spinner attraction is going to be the Inside Out neighborhood. And, I mean, who wants more spinners in the Disney park? I mean, we already have, in California Adventure alone, we have not Ferris wheels. Merry-go-rounds count as spinners to you?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay, so
they spin you around and around. So.
So we have King Triton's Carousel. We have the one in Flick's Fun Fair. We have... I'm going to go ahead and count the Ferris wheel as a spinner, even though it's kind of not. But then we also have the Silly Symphony Swings, which is kind of a spinner also. And then we have... I think there's an... No, I think that's it. But then they're going to be adding...
No, there's Golden Zephyr.
Oh, yes. Golden Zephyr. That's 5. And then plus the Inside Out one. That's going to be 6. And I think like 4 of them are crammed into just that one area of PIXAR Pier. And it's like everywhere you look, it's going to be spinner attractions. Like, why? No one wants to ride those. I mean, I get kids have fun on them, but... that's just not what Disney's about. Not about just kid rides, It's about rides that the whole family can enjoy. And I definitely would not enjoy getting on the Flick's spinner thingy. I don't even know what it's called. That's the end. That's the end of my rant, though. So.
It's just a bunch of silliness, honestly. Mm-hmm. Because people feel like, we have to find a way to make everything, make everything into synergy with what's going on the silver screen. And it's like, we have to make, Paradise Pier doesn't have enough IPs in it, so why don't we just fill it with IPs? It's a sign of the times, honestly.
Yeah.
And that's what's really sad is I wish people weren't like that. I wish people didn't have to feel like everything needed to be something from the silver screen. Like we were discussing in your last episode of Matterhorn Mondays, ideas for a non-IP based ride, because at this point it's gotten to the point where we have to think of something new for Disney because they're just obsessed with giving you rides and attractions that are all about the movies. It's unnecessary. And with this PIXAR Pier thing, it has made me angry. It has made me really angry because, first of all, I disliked the pier idea to begin with. But at least they made it into something that was classy looking.
Yeah.
With its Victorian style and the roller coaster, like we mentioned, it's designed to look like an old wooden roller coaster, from the 1910s, and it's very specifically looks like that. And the fact that they're just putting Pixar all over it, and Pixar all over the pier with spinner attractions everywhere, it's just cheap. It's cheap, and they're doing it because they want more money out of you, and they know that Pixar will bring you into the park, and it's a cheap way of entertaining you and a cheap way of getting you into their shops and stuff like that. It's not up to the Disney quality. And as for Disney quality, I could go on a rant on that by myself. I mean, that is just... But I mean, once again, I cannot describe how much I hate the PIXAR Pier idea. It's unnecessary. The Paradise Pier is fine as it is right now. I mean, it could be better if they bulldozed the whole darn thing and built an entirely new land. But if they want to keep a pier, Paradise Pier is the way to go.
Absolutely. And to add to the confusion, the remaining rides that were on the pier, like the Jumpin' Jellyfish, Ariel's Undersea Adventure, the Golden Zephyr, Goofy's Sky School, and the Silly Symphony Swings, is going to be like a new mini land called Paradise Park. And I mean, why don't they just do all the other attractions if they're going full in with the Pixar, just retheme everything, Why just create a smaller land just for those couple rides?
I'll tell you why. Because they're sitting there going, you know what? We don't need to change this. It's not worth our money. I mean, here everyone's saying, oh well, Disney's gonna take out Goofy's Sky School and put in Ratatouille.
I wish.
And didn't I say? I said no, they're not. because it costs too much money. It's not enough room. I mean, even if there was enough room, once again, it costs too much money. And Disney doesn't want to spend money. They want to make money.
Yeah.
So, and that's the odd thing about it, is because Walt Disney was famous for his spend money first, make money later kind of way that he did business. But, of course, the Disney company is no longer like Walt Disney. They are now most like every other big name corporation, which is all about money first, you know, and they look at the rest of Paradise Pier, the one with the golden zephyr and the jumping jellyfish. The jumping anyway, with that, and they look at, you know, at all that, and they go, that's gonna cost too much money to change. Let's not plus that up in any way. Let's not add any more dark rides that will add something to it. Honestly, I'm sorry, I'm ranting. Oh my gosh, I'm ranting. But I'm going to finish this rant with this little bit. Honestly, for all those people who thought they were going to put Ratatouille in, I was all for that. Honestly, because, you know, California Adventure needs more dark rides.
Yeah.
You know, dark rides are what people go to a Disney park for. And the fact that they have specifically spent so much effort to not put dark rides in California Adventure is what ticks me off. So that's the end of my rant there.
No, it was a good rant. You made a lot of great points. I forgot to mention also that, oh boy, the Ariel's Grotto and the Cove Bar are going to be rethemed to a new lounge/grill. And I mean, they just redid the Cove Bar like last year to like extend the seating outwards, didn't they?
They did. They took up some of the walkway that was already on the pier, and then they just turned that into seating.
And I mean, there really is no good way you can theme a specific land to the entire Pixar movie universe. I mean, at least in Disney World, they're getting the Toy Story Land, which is themed decently, you know, with all the Lincoln Logs and Andy's footprints in the sidewalk. That's the kind of stuff I like, the details like that, but you can't theme an entire land to 4 different movie franchises, you know? Well, I mean, if you do it in the right way, like how it's done in Fantasyland, but it just doesn't make any sense. No,
you made a good point there. I mean, okay, so you look at this. So Incredibles, its time and place is more modern, but in a metropolis city. Okay, you look at Toy Story, it's in modern times, but in suburbs, and it's about toys who are much smaller than normal people. And then you look at Inside Out, which is, well, it's kind of fantasy. Anyway, it's inside a person's head, microscopic if anything, and it just those was that 3, 4? No, whatever. Those times and places are completely different from one another, and you look at Fantasyland, and how does Fantasyland tie it in? Well, Fantasyland, you look at 4 different dark ride stories: Mr. Toad's, Peter Pan, Snow White, and Pinocchio. 4 totally different stories, and the way that they tied it in was through the place and setting of Fantasyland. They turned it into a tiny little village, kind of like a Dutch-looking village, and that kind of helped tie those 4 stories into a single land. So it helps it to match. Well, what are they doing with Pixar Pier? Well, not really much. They're just sticking a bunch of closely themed areas next to each other, and they don't really even go together. On a pier, people. It's let's remember, this is still supposed to be a seaside pier. So How does that fit? Since when did the family of Incredibles move their house onto a pier? Since when did Inside Out exist at the end of a pier? And Toy Story, what brings the toys to a pier where the Incredibles are? It doesn't make sense, people. And the setting that these Pixar movies are in, the setting is a pier, so it doesn't tie those things in together. It just no.
And I mean, the Paradise Pier is really one of the last California quote themed lands, to be in California Adventure, besides Buena Vista Street and the Grizzly Peak area. I can never remember the name of that, but it's only a matter of time before they eventually get rid of those two areas also and retheme them to something else besides California, taking California out of California Adventure,
Right. I mean, to my knowledge, there's no Pixar Pier anywhere along the coast of California, so it just, honestly, that doesn't, even match. I mean, you look at Buena Vista Street, it used to exist. I mean, it wasn't called Buena Vista Street, but I mean, it was designed to look like a street in Los Angeles. No, actually, I think it was designed to look like Buena Vista Street in Los Angeles. Anyway, and then there was the Carthay Circle Theater, which used to exist. So once again, it's themed to look like something that used to exist, and the ideal version at that, the Disney version. Yeah. And you look at Grizzly Peak Airfield and Grizzly Peak area, because those are technically two different areas, which again doesn't make sense. Just call it all one area, honestly. And that area, which is a beautiful looking forested area, that eventually will go away as well, because Disney's going to look at that and go, oh, well, the Grizzly River Run attraction isn't based off of an IP, so we're going to have to fix that, so eventually they're going to fix that. I mean, I think that Soarin' Over the World is safe for now, but Soarin' Over the World is not California. So that doesn't really fit into the Grizzly Peak Airfield anymore. It's just, I mean, when you think about it, the very first scene on the Soarin' Over the World is you're in Alaska. So it's not like you took off from Grizzly Airfield and the next thing you know, you're in, I don't know, Sacramento or San Francisco or something. No, you're in Alaska. Just think about that, people. You just think about that.
Oh my goodness. This is a great episode, by the way, guys. I hope you all are enjoying this. And I also wanted to point out that they specifically said in the Disney Parks blog post, this new permanent land in the new area that is now Paradise Pier will introduce 4 new neighborhoods representing beloved Disney Pixar stories. Permanent, people. After this, there's no going back. There's no going back.
Neighborhoods is one of those Disney words that is the short way of saying we couldn't find a way to make these things fit, so they're going to be kept separate. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I know a lot of you out there are, in support of Pixar Pier because you probably think that Paradise Pier is lame and badly themed, but I think Paradise Pier is good for what it is. Sure, it could use improvements, like Alex said, but this is not the improvement that Paradise Pier needs. It needs different, better improvements. And, like I said, there's no one way you can theme cohesively all of these rides together, into one area. And it's really just going to come down to a lot of paint jobs, a lot of that's really almost it. Just a lot of paint jobs along the pier.
Right. This is Disney's way of going, what's the cheapest way we can improve Paradise Pier?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, okay, well, let's just give it a bunch of Pixar overlays. I mean, honestly, they're not really spending that much money on Pixar Pier compared to what they could be spending to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, once again, I have to say that a pier over there should not have ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
But it's there, so how do we deal with it? Well, don't try to disguise it underneath a bunch of, Pixar movies.
Mm-hmm.
Try to accentuate what it is and make it look nice, make it look classy, make it look better. But, I mean, Pixaring it up is not the answer. I mean, granted, from a distance, you won't notice the differences. But once you walk right through it, it's going to smack you right in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that. It's going to be a jolting difference.
It really is. And Cars is Pixar, right?
Cars is Pixar, yeah.
Wait a minute. There are 2 Pixar-themed lands right next to each other.
Right. How does that work?
That doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. It just doesn't work together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then of course there's Bugs Land, which is another Pixar-themed land.
Oh my gosh, that's 3 Pixar-themed lands in one park. That blows my mind. I'm sorry. That really just blows my mind.
I mean, Bugs Land is most likely on its way out the door, but nevertheless, at one point there will be 3 Pixar-themed lands in a single Disney theme park.
Oh my gosh.
And let's not forget, people, that Pixar Pier is Disney's answer to the fact that they need a land for Pixar stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So let's not forget that. I mean, it's just.
I mean, it goes back to what I've always been saying. Disneyland always gets the short end of the stick when it comes to these lands. Hong Kong, or not Hong Kong, Walt Disney World gets Toy Story Land, and I think Shanghai is also getting a Toy Story Land. And it's just sad because there's not enough space to do things to that level of theming and to that quality of theming in Disneyland, and it just makes me sad because this is what we have to settle for. Disneyland gets the bottom of the barrel scraps, that's left over from the Imagineers' ideas when they came up with Toy Story Land and all that other stuff.
Right, and if they're not getting the bottom of the barrel, then they're the guinea pigs.
Yes.
Getting the small budgets to create something brand new, and then Walt Disney World goes and builds it better.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, just look at Splash Mountain. I mean, Splash Mountain was the guinea pig at Disneyland, and it was successful, and they went and built a better version at Walt Disney World. I mean, I won't say better necessarily, but they spent more money on it, and it's got a lot of nice scenery on the inside, but not enough animated figures. But in any case, that's what happens at Disneyland or Disneyland Resort, is that, a lot of times we are either scraping the bottom of the barrel or we're just the guinea pigs for something. Granted, Cars Land was kind of the exception to both of those things. Mm-hmm. Because Cars Land was given the big budget, but I mean, really, that's all you can honestly say is Cars Land. And as for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, we might have 2 e-tickets, but let's not forget those are just 2 rides out of a 14-acre land.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, it's interesting, like you said a while ago, how you thought they were going to move the Flix spinny thingy over to the Pixar Pier and retheme it as the Inside Out attraction. And I think that's what they're going to do, because eventually, like you said, Bugs Land is going to have to go and eventually, hopefully, make way for Marvel Land in that, in that little area.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that the history of Disney can tell us is that they often recycle rides. So I honestly, I really think, and I hope I'm right because then I'd be like the only person who said this, but I hope that the spinner attraction for the Inside Out at the end of Pixar Pier is gonna be the one from Flick's Fun Fair because it's the same type of attraction. It's an exact same mechanism, and they're actually purchasable, by the way. Which Disney purchased one for Flick's. I don't want to. Anyway, point is that I'm pretty sure that they're going to take that one out of Bugs Land and save it and turn it into the one for the Pixar Pier. And here's another thought, Disney, if you're listening to this. Since you're going to demolish Bugs Land anyway, you might as well take Heimlich's Choo Choo Train and turn it into like some kind of alien attraction for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. You know, you could have like some kind of like alien worm or whatever going through like Star Wars Land, munching through things. How cool would that be?
Oh my gosh,
know?
like a zombie Heimlich kind of.
Yeah, like a zombie Heimlich. Wouldn't that be? Well, I mean, yeah, kind of.
That'd be cool. Disney, hire us as Imagineers. We could do better than Pixar Pier.
Yeah, we could. We could.
And I just wanted to point out, for those of you that missed, this land is opening next summer. They're going to have to do all of this retheming within under a year. Under a year. That's how much time they're going to have to do this. And I don't know. I mean, under a year is definitely enough time for this cheap of a retheme, you know, but I just wish they would put...
I was going to say that.
I stole the words from him, but I wish they would just spend more time and more money to make, I don't know, to just make Paradise Pier better without the Pixar.
Yeah, you know, honestly, I believe that they'll get it done by summer because, you know, it's such a cheap project. Really, it's just a bunch of repainting. You know, I think the most of the budget is being spent at the what do you call it? The loading area for California Screamin'. So I think that's the most of the budget. Honestly, like it's just a repaint of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And but here's an interesting thing: was the concept art showed that the scream tubes on California Screamin' will be painted red, but that they'll be entirely enclosed. So I wonder if Disney wants to isolate the sounds of people screaming, because here's the funny thing: the scream tubes are halfway open, and that's because the scream tubes are there so that way you can't hear the loudest part of people's screams from outside California Adventure. If you're on, like, let's say the other side of Catella, because there are businesses there and they didn't want to hear people screaming all day from the roller coaster. So the scream tubes were built into the design to direct the screams into the rest of California Adventure. Well, now, since the attraction is no longer going to be California Screamin', they have these enclosed scream tubes, I think, to muffle the screams altogether.
That takes away from all the fun. I love hearing the riders scream when they go past me when I'm walking on the boardwalk, you know?
Yeah, well, now you can hear the sounds of the Incredible family.
Oh my gosh. Why couldn't they have themed it to the Slinky roller coaster that they're going to have in Disney World?
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, instead of an Incredibles one, you know? I don't know. I'm so just dumbfounded, you know? Oh, wow. We talked about Pixar Pier for over 30 minutes. That is an incredible thing. You guys should be happy because you heard both of us rant about our hatred for this project, and some of you I'm sure are going to point out that we're being too negative and all that stuff. I just wanted to point out that we both love Disneyland. We love Disney as a company for the most part. Yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for Matterhorn Matt, but for myself, I feel like I have a very good hold on what Walt would have liked and what, what the Disney company is about or should be about. And when it comes to Pixar Pier, the reason why I'm so negative about it is because Disney could have done so much better. And Walt, this is not even nearly on his level of quality.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm so negative about it. I mean, honestly, I love Disney, and it's my love for Disney that makes me feel sadness for them when all they see is, dollar signs in their eyes.
The real loss for me is the posters that they have on like the left side of the pier right when you walk in, because those are beautiful pieces of art. Whoever drew those, congratulations, because they're beautiful. I would love to hang them up in my room and just stare at them all day long.
Yeah, those are really nice. But now imagine, like, in each one you see like a different Pixar character, totally like what's that? We're photobombing.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, yes. No.
That's what they're gonna do. It's gonna be like a total photobomb version of those.
I can totally see that. We're calling it now. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be the original paintings with just Pixar character in the background, just with the peace sign, photobomb. Haha. We called it. November 4th, 2017 at 6:53 p.m. And, okay, I just wanted to point out one more thing. I really don't... Okay, in this concept art, it shows like a huge statue of Jessie next to the King Triton's carousel, or what currently is the King Triton's carousel. I really don't like the like huge Jessie figurine. I can't put my finger on why. I just don't like it. It doesn't...
It's tacky.
Yes, oh, that's the word. It's tacky. It just... Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredibly tacky. I mean, it's like that hotel from Las Vegas, the one that had the big cowboy. I think it was called. I forget what it's called. But it had the big cowboy with the hat and the cigarette, and I think he was pointing at the sign. I can't remember what it's called, but it's tacky. Like it's just a big giant Jessie, and it's I'm sorry, people. My physical well-being is in distress because of of what's going on to Pixar Pier. I mean, I will probably avoid Pixar Pier just because I can't stand to see the tackiness. I mean, that's the whole reason why I used to avoid California Adventure altogether, was because of the way it looked, how tacky it was. I couldn't stand to be in it. And after they redid it with Cars Land and Buena Vista Street, then I started visiting it more often and seeing it because of Cars Land and because I loved Buena Vista Street. But now they're circling right back around to tackiness.
Yes.
It's like they didn't learn anything. Yeah,
and that's the thing everybody brings up. Why spend $2 billion to redo the park in 2012 if you're just gonna just ruin it, changing Tower of Terror into Guardians of the Galaxy was just the beginning, people. The rethemes and reskins of attractions, the age of those is now upon us. And
it's just like movies. It's like, instead of releasing a brand new original idea movie, they release just a remake of an old movie. So it's the same thing with rides. Now they're taking rides and reskinning them into something else, you know?
Yeah, and it was at least my hope that they'd eventually switch the theming of Guardians of the Galaxy back to Tower of Terror. But
Oh, mine too.
that's obviously not gonna happen, and that makes me sad. Yeah, you know, I just love Disney's thinking. If it's not broke, let's break it.
I like that.
That's gonna do it for this topic. Wow, that was a great closer. Oh boy, if you guys want to hear us talk more about this, go ahead and comment down below. If you guys don't want us to talk about this ever again, also comment down below. We'll take the comments and digest them and figure out what we're gonna do in the next few episodes. So on to the less sad topic, which is Discovery Bay. And when I first originally heard about this idea, I don't know why, but for some reason I strayed away from any of the small details of like what the park or what the land would actually be. I remember just looking at the concept art and not looking at anything else. And in preparation for my latest video of Historyland on the on Discovery Bay, I had to do a lot of research because there were so many little points that I just missed, you know, and oh boy. Alex, why don't you go ahead and give us your thoughts on the never-built land, Discovery Bay?
Well, I'm probably different than a lot of other people with my opinion on it because I'm not much a fan of the whole steampunk look or era. I don't even think it ever was an era. It was a fantasy era. And, you know, all created by, you know, Jules Verne. I'm not a fan of it, honestly. I don't really like steampunk looking stuff. So I'm kind of happy in a sense that it never happened. Not that they wouldn't have put a lot of good effort into the land. I mean, I'm sure, you know, Tony Baxter, he's one of my favorite Imagineers because, I mean, say what you want about him, but his attractions are very awesome and very successful. And I think that because Discovery Bay was something that he would have overseen the creation of, I think he would have put as much of himself into it as possible. So I'm not knocking the fact that it would have probably been, you know, at his highest standard. But I myself am not a fan of the steampunk stuff or the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I mean, I know that was a Disney movie, but it certainly wasn't my favorite Disney movie. So I don't know. I have a very different opinion on it.
Okay. I've never actually seen that movie, to be honest. I wanted to watch it, but I don't know, it just didn't look very interesting to me. I mean, I love the architecture, you know, of like the Victorian steampunk stuff, but I'm not really into like that, I guess that movie, even though I've never seen it. I can't really say if I like it or not, but oh boy. Like you said, Tony Baxter, he did an amazing job in Disneyland Paris. And, I mean, I don't really know. I feel like, okay, there's going to be a do-or-die question at the end of this topic for both of us to answer that I teased in the episode of Historyland, but we're going to get to that in a bit. I mean, Discovery Bay, it would have been an interesting addition to the Rivers of America and to Disneyland as a whole. I mean, I don't think it would have really fit in, you know, with all the other lands because it was originally just supposed to be an extension of Frontierland, but you know, it turned into its whole separate land. And I mean, I don't know. I like the idea, but I don't think it would have fit well in Disneyland.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really think it has a place in Disneyland. Maybe in another Disney park.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they kind of did something like it over at, was it Tokyo Disney Sea?
Yeah.
And, you know, and it's a different park, so it kind of works. But, I mean, Disneyland, I don't know. I think I have a certain idea of what Disneyland should look like.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't include Discovery Bay or Star Wars Land. So, or Toontown.
Poor Toontown.
I know, everyone bullies it.
I mean, Discovery Bay, for those of you who are wishing and hoping that Discovery Bay would have gotten built, or would have gotten built, you know, say a couple years ago, it's not completely dead, you know. Discoveryland in Disneyland Paris is kind of, not exactly, but it's themed to, you know, the steampunk, Victorian, alternate future kind of thing. And like you said, Tokyo Disney Sea, and I was about to bring up the 1998 Tomorrowland refurb, but we don't ever talk about that on this podcast. But yeah, like I said, if you just look in the right places, Discovery Bay is still, you know, there in a sense, just not in one, I guess, cohesive land. But I mean, I really don't have a lot to say about this topic. I just wanted to see what Alex's opinion on it was. But now here's the big question. Would you rather have Discovery Bay or Star Wars Land in Disneyland?
Oh, you had to ask that.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez. Well, okay. Well, all right. Here's my opinion on that. And a lot of people who know me and know what I think about Star Wars Land are going to be shocked about what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say that I would prefer Star Wars Land.
Okay.
Because I do like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I'm against the land, I do like Star Wars, and I like the experiences that Disney brings with Star Wars. If it's anything like being in a much larger version of Star Tours, then I'm all for it. I don't think Star Wars Land fits in Disneyland. It just does. It's a single land with one IP, mm-hmm. and it's got 2 rides. Granted, they're e-tickets, but just 2 over 14 acres of land. But it's still better, in my opinion, than having Discovery Bay. Because the architecture is going to look better,
mm-hmm.
in my opinion. Because once again, I'm not a fan of the steampunk architecture, and the attractions will at least be relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Well, sorry, I just yawned. So I'm gonna say that Star Wars Land, I would prefer that one, because at least it's relevant. At least it has good-looking architecture and has an experience that I personally would like to go and see. Granted, I wish that the experience wasn't in Disneyland. I wish it was in a different Disney park. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the verdict.
Wow, I completely thought that she would be totally against Star Wars Land and all for Discovery Bay, but oh boy,
I like to shock people.
Well, there you go, guys. Alex's final verdict: he loves Star Wars Land over Discovery Bay, and I mean, I was gonna say the same thing anyways. I prefer Star Wars Land because, like you said, I love Star Wars. Who doesn't love Star Wars? Star Wars is awesome. And I mean, I agree with you. I wish it would be in a different park, like, you know, Third Gate or maybe California Adventure. I don't know, but I would prefer Star Wars Land over Discovery Bay, and I'm sure a lot of you guys in the comments are going to be chewing us out, both of us, because of how many times we've bashed, Star Wars Land. But we love Star Wars, and like Alex said, the experience in Star Wars Land is going to be way above any other experience. Hopefully, is going to hopefully be way above any other experience that anyone has ever had in a theme park before. And I don't know, I'm kind of excited for Star Wars Land to open.
I have a question for you.
Oh boy.
Okay. Avatar Land or Discovery Bay?
Discovery Bay.
Oh, really?
I've never seen Avatar.
Are you kidding me?
No, I've never seen it. The number one grossing movie, I've never seen it.
Oh, that hurts.
I mean, I would have liked to visit, I would have liked to visit maybe once, just to see what it's like, but...
I would love to live there.
Oh. I guess. I mean, I was closely following the construction of Avatar Land, and I wanted to see how the public would react to it, and I mean, it's okay. I think it's okay.
Okay.
There's another, dropping another bomb on this week's Matterhorn Mondays. Matterhorn Matt does not like Avatar Land. Just kidding, I think it's okay, but... Oh, okay. Would you rather have a Toy Story Land or a Star Wars Land in the Disney park, in Disneyland, I mean?
God. Okay, I'll have to say... Ooh. Toy Story Land.
Oh my gosh.
I know, that's kind of weird. Like, I was thinking about it, and here's the reason why. And it's barely a reason. It's barely it's barely like even a reason. Because at least Toy Story, when it was created, was, Disney. I mean, it was Pixar, but it was also Disney. And I've always associated Toy Story with Disney. It's always been in my mind as a Disney movie. And Star Wars has always been a George Lucas feature. Even though, like, The Force Awakens came out and Rogue One came out, for some reason, my brain still associates it with George Lucas. So it just doesn't feel Disneyland-ish to me. I mean, granted, I would not... This is not saying that I would love to have Toy Story Land at Disneyland. I don't think that Disneyland should have any one IP-based land. I mean, people who know me know I'm also against... Toontown, because it's based off of the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and one land shouldn't, in Disneyland, speaking of Disneyland, one land shouldn't be entirely one IP. But if I did have to choose between Star Wars Land and Toy Story Land in Disneyland, I would prefer Toy Story Land because it's closer to Disney, in my opinion, than Star Wars is.
No, I see. I totally see where you're coming from. I don't associate Star Wars with Disney. I have to remind myself that Disney owns Star Wars, and we're not. I guess this goes back on what I said earlier. We're not bashing on Pixar movies or Star Wars movies or anything like that. I cried during Toy Story 3 in the theater. I legit cried at the end. Well, no spoilers. Well, it's been out for a while, so spoilers.
Spoilers.
When they're in the the garbage thing, and they all hold hands, thinking it's gonna be their last moment together. I cried, and also at the end too, when I'm not gonna warn for spoilers, but when Andy gives his toys to Bonnie, that really got to me. That just made me cry like a baby.
I laugh, but the same thing happened to me.
See, guys, we love Pixar movies. I cried during Finding Dory too. It's okay.
Yeah, I can't say that any Star Wars movies made me cry.
Me neither.
Not one. I mean, I felt the inkling of a tear during the end of Rogue One, but the tear went back. So I just
I cried when Jar Jar came on screen in episode 1.
Was it because you wished he wasn't on screen?
No, because I think he's such a deep and fleshed out character. I love him so much.
Are you serious?
No.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Okay, because I was going to say, like, if there's
when you think about it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if there's any character that is more racist, it would be Jar Jar Binks.
It's true. But when you think about it, it's all Jar Jar's fault that the Empire took over, because he gave emergency powers to Chancellor Palpatine, and then Chancellor Palpatine got ugly and took over the galaxy. So it's all Jar Jar's fault.
Oh, that's true. That's true. It is Jar Jar's fault.
Mm-hmm. I heard in one of the recent Star Wars comics, it mentioned Jar Jar, and he was like, I don't remember the exact details, but it talked about him being like homeless or something because everyone blamed him for the rise of the Empire, and he was like heckling for money or something like a homeless guy, and it just made me, I don't know, it just made me really happy, but then also sad at the same time, but mostly happy.
Well, Jar Jar Binks was very bright, and then having him as a senator, it's kind of like the person that's in office right now.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that was risque, wasn't it?
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No. I can neither confirm nor deny my acceptance of Alex's statement that he just said.
Nor did I mention what office I was talking about, but
That's true. It could be China for all he's talking about. Oh my gosh. All right. Do you have any closing thoughts or anything you'd like to mention to the viewers or to the listeners, I guess?
Yes, I would like to advise Matterhorn Matt to watch Avatar.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. I'll probably watch it once the sequel comes out.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Sequel. I keep forgetting there's going to be a sequel because he keeps delaying it so much.
There's going to be more than the sequel. There's going to be like 6 movies.
Yeah, I know. Gosh. And they're going to be his last movies. Think about that.
Really?
He's gonna retire after that.
Oh, okay. That's really
interesting. Can you imagine? This is from a guy who only makes one movie every 10 years.
That's true.
He's gonna retire after making only 5 movies.
5 good movies, actually.
5 good movies. I loved every movie he's made.
Oh, okay. Well, next week, we're going to be talking about Disney movies. That doesn't really tie into what we were just talking about now, but next week, I hope you guys are ready for some more ranting when it comes to modern Disney movies.
Yeah, ranting's going to be good.
I don't really have anything else to say, so I guess that's just gonna... I don't know what I was trying to say. That's gonna just about wrap this episode up. I hope you all enjoyed, and we want to hear all of your thoughts on PIXAR PIER. Comment them down below, whether you love the idea, hate the idea, disagree with us, or agree with us. We want to read your comments, so yeah, comment down below, and don't forget to check out Alex on YouTube. He makes really amazing videos. I really can't say enough about his videos. They're amazing, and yeah, be sure to, Alex, why don't you go ahead and explain to the listeners how they can support you?
Oh, okay. So, okay, you can support me. I had to think about that for a second. You can support me on the Venmo app, which is spelled Venmo, and it's a free app you can get on your phone. My sister and I use it to exchange money whenever we need it. But basically, you just create a little account, and then you find my username, which is @AYAlexander, and you can put in a transfer request to send me any amount of money you'd like, including $5 million, if that's what you wish.
Yeah, guys, go out and support Alex. Get him to his $5 million goal. I think we can get there with enough donations.
Mm-hmm. If everybody donated like $1,000, then
we can do it, guys. It's not a lot of money. Only $1,000. Oh boy. You guys can support me by buying my t-shirts. Link will be in the description. My t-shirts are awesome. I don't know why you guys
his
haven't bought
t-shirts
them yet.
are really cool. I got one of his t-shirts. It says Historyland on it, and it is so cool to look at.
Thank you. That's really flattering. But I'm going to be hopefully coming out with more designs for t-shirts. So comment down below what kind of different designs you guys like, because I'm all about designing t-shirts for you guys, because I like designing things. Oh boy, you guys can also support me on Patreon if you want, and go ahead and follow my Twitter if you guys want to, because I tweet a lot of updates regarding videos and just my opinions on Disney stuff in general. Yeah, if you haven't already, check out my previous episode of Historyland on Discovery Bay, and oh my gosh, I forgot what I was gonna say. Yep, that's it. I hope you all enjoyed this episode, and have a great big beautiful tomorrow. See ya.